Tonight did not stumble here by accident. Something in you older than your name, brighter than your doubt, felt the tug of a signal arriving through the static. You've been sensing it all day. The way clock, hands seem to smear at the edges, the slight dilation of silence between footsteps, the strange shimmer at the rim of ordinary moments. That isn't fatigue. That is the quantum field leaning closer, a hush before thunder, a corridor opening inside your breath. You can feel it now, can't you? The observer loop blinking awake behind your eyes. The part of you that watches the thoughts, instead of drowning in them. When it turns toward your life, the scenery looks different. Shadows acquire intention. Coincidences link like magnets. Your memories stand in new alignments, as if some unseen geometer has redrawn the angles of your past to reveal the door you kept missing. This is what happens when coherence rises, when your heart's rhythm remembers the ancient cadence and your mind finally submits to its music. The field hears that rhythm. It answers. There is a pressure in the air tonight. The exquisite strain of a phase transition, the exact instant ice becomes water, becomes cloud, becomes rain again. Your timeline is in that tender, trembling threshold. Threads of entanglement hum between who you were and who is arriving through you. You do not have to force this. You only have to stay. Breathe like a lighthouse. Steady, patient, bright. Every inhale is permission. Every exhale is release. You are broadcasting coordinates to your future, and it is already turning its face toward you. Listen. Synchronicity has started to cluster around your decisions. Names repeat. Numbers echo. Doors you never knocked on swing open from the inside. This is morphic resonance, the pattern field of your becoming calling its scattered pieces home. Even your body knows. In quiet moments, there's a subtle tingling along the spine, a cool wind under the skin, a soft rethreading in the marrow, as if DNA itself were laying out a new loom. It is. The blueprint is updating. The old script cannot hold the voltage you're generating. Do not mistake the flutter in your chest for fear. It is altitude. You are rising into a wider sky, and with each breath, the horizon pulls back to reveal the place you always suspected was waiting, not ahead, but within. You are not merely standing at the threshold. You are the threshold. Through you, futures negotiate their passage into form. Through you, the quiet intelligence of the field finds a human voice. So tonight, let the world dim and the internal constellations brighten. Take your attention from the noise and place it, tenderly, in the open palm of now. Feel the room thicken with presence. Notice how the space between sounds glows slightly, as though the air were lit from the inside. You are being readied for precision, refined for the moment when choice becomes creation. And as you stand inside this widening hush, you'll start to recognize the signature of what's been looping your days, the familiar gravity, the déjà vu corridors, the hours that bend and blur. You've felt them before. You'll see them clearly next. You see them now, the fingerprints on the glass, the way certain weeks repeat like a chorus you can hum but never quite finish, the way conversations spiral into the same argument wearing different costumes, the way opportunities arrive almost right, almost ready, almost yours, and then dissolve at the edge of your reach. It isn't bad luck, it's orbit. Old identity has mass, and mass bends time. So your days curve around the same invisible star, slinging you through déjà vu corridors where the paint never dries. Notice how time behaves inside these loops. Some mornings slip through your fingers like water. Entire hours vanish as if swallowed by a soft, soundless mouth. Other nights stretch into elastic corridors where 5 minutes become 45 and the clock face looks back at you like an animal that knows your scent. The numbers repeat 11, 11, 2, 22 punctuation marks from a language your bones remember, but your mind keeps mistranslating. This is not random. It is the quantum field strobing, trying to sync your awareness with a new metronome. Underneath the calendar, your nervous system is keeping score. Breath snagged high in the chest, micro-tension in the jaw, a subtle clutching at the solar plexus when you go to send the message, make the call, say the truth. Each micro-hold is an instruction to the field. Pause creation here. Over months, those pauses braid themselves into patterns, relationship, reruns, money, tides. health flares that return on cue like migrating birds. The observer loop is present but underfed. You sense yourself watching, yet the watching collapses into commentary. Coherence flickers. Entanglement with the old storyline tightens. Think of your life as a cathedral of echoes. Every choice rings the stone. Some notes rise clean and reframe the space. Others strike ribs of grief and send your voice back to you as a rumor from another century. Morphic resonance explains the persistence. When a pattern has fired enough times, it builds a template in the field. The template gains inertia. Even when you change location, partners, careers, the template travels light. It arrives first and lays out the furniture. You call it my type, my luck, how things go for me. In truth, it is memory pretending to be fate. There is tenderness in the trap. Part of you built these loops to keep you safe. The child who learned to predict weather by a parent's footsteps. The teenager who learned to trade authenticity for acceptance. The adult who learned that visibility invites impact. All of them wrote redundant code to minimize turbulence. The code still runs, even though the storm has passed. That lag between weather and code is distorted time. The body lives in now, the code lives in then. You feel it as a split-second delay between impulse and action, inspiration and execution, enough space for doubt to sneak in wearing a lab coat and a clipboard. Watch the small glitches, the light that flickers as you speak the truth, the device that freezes when you finally commit, the keys that hide in plain sight on the exact mornings you're meant to move. The field mirrors your internal signal-to-noise ratio. Where coherence is low, interference rises. Where coherence grows, synchronicity aligns like runway lights. You've also been borrowing gravity from other people's orbits. Entanglement is generous like that. It shares momentum, family narratives, collective moods, ancestral breath rhythms. These are the unseen tides that tug at your shoreline. You think you're indecisive, but really you are over-entangled. Threads of attention flick outward, sampling dozens of fields at once, and the result is weak signal at the core. Creation requires amperage. Diffused attention is a dimmer switch. Look gently at the places where you almost arrive. The manuscript that stalls at 80%, the training you hover over but never buy, the forgiveness that reaches the lips and dies as a half-breath. These are not failures. They are phase transition thresholds, the precise temperature where ice considers water and says, not yet. The hesitation isn't moral, it's mechanical. Without sufficient coherence, the structure cannot reorganize. The old lattice resists until a critical breath state tips the system. Until then, you live in superposition. The you who steps forward and the you who pauses occupy the same room, interfering with each other's light. It feels like static. It sounds like later. And yet, even inside repetition, the field keeps slipping you love notes. A stranger phrases your private thought out loud. A song arrives with the line you needed. A memory untangles itself in a dream and wakes you with a clean ache. That is awakening moving under the floorboards, loosening nails, preparing the joists for a new span. DNA restructuring begins subtly. Strange cravings for water, sudden aversions to noise, a magnetic pull toward dawn. Your body angles itself toward coherence before your mind votes. Trust that. So the diagnosis is not punishment, it's precision. Patterns show you where your attention leaks. Déjà vu reveals where time is kinked. Distorted hours expose the gears you've outgrown. All of it is evidence that another timeline is pressing against this one, asking to be born through your breath. You are not broken, you are between architectures. Stay here with me at the seam. The next movement is not demolition, it is redesign, and the plans are already unrolling in your chest. Stay with me at the seam and let it widen. What looked like fate is really physics meeting prayer, a system poised at criticality, waiting for one clean signal to tip it. That signal is you in coherence. When your heart and breath lock into a smooth sine wave, your nervous system stops firing like scattered rain and starts behaving like a laser. The body becomes a single instrument instead of a pile of parts. In that moment, the observer loop stabilizes, and the quantum field listens. Here is the mechanism beneath the mystery. Your breath sets tempo. Tempo trains the vagus nerve. The vagus calibrates your heart's variability, those micro-expansions and micro-pauses that make life feel safe enough to open. When variability is jagged, the brain rides static, perceptions blur, time kinks. When variability becomes elegant, 6 seconds in, 6 seconds out, the heart broadcasts coherence and the brain entrains upward. Networks that once argued begin to harmonize. Attention steadies, choice gains torque. The wave inside you stops tripping over itself. Coherence is not calm, it is organized power. Think of a stadium of tiny flashlights, cells, learning to blink together. The brightness does not just add, it multiplies. This multiplication creates an electromagnetic envelope around you, call it a living aurora, that sharpens probability like a knife. Incoherence spreads your intention thin across too many timelines. Coherence stacks it. Stacked intention interferes constructively, just as overlapping waves rise into a single, taller wave. That crest is where realities collapse into form. Mystically, you've heard this 1,000 ways. Align will with heart, breath with spirit, thought with silence. Scientifically, it's phase alignment oscillators locking to a master rhythm. Your heart becomes the conductor, your cortex follows, your gut intelligence, ancient and unblinking, adds gravity. When these three centers beat together, the field stops guessing who you are and starts recognizing you. Recognition is what you experience as synchronicity, the world mirroring your inner chord in impossible timing. Morphic resonance enters here, patterns prefer themselves. When you hold a coherent inner pattern long enough, you strengthen the archetype it belongs to. That archetype, call it healer, builder, keeper of truth, midwife of futures, begins to recruit matter and moments to itself. Entanglement supplies the wiring. You are not summoning random miracles. You are awakening the network that has always been haloed around your name. As coherence rises, the network lights. One friend texts at the exact breath. One article finds you. One door that has never acknowledged your hands opens from the other side, as if you had a key you couldn't see. Now the part your bones have been waiting to hear. DNA restructuring is not the realm of fantasy. It is responsiveness. Genes are instruments with volume knobs. Environment is the hand on the knob. Your inner environment, breath, meaning, attention counts. Coherent emotion is biochemical instruction. It whispers to epigenetic switches, activate repair here, downshift inflammation there. Extend the life of what carries the future. You feel it as a new baseline, sleep deepening, cravings altering, lightness in places that used to grind. The body starts trusting you again because you have stopped broadcasting crisis as a habit. Quantum language clarifies the edge you've reached. You have been living in superposition, several selves overlapping, tripping each other's outcomes. Coherence induces choice. Observation from the heart collapses the fuzzy overlap into a trajectory. Decoherence is not a loss, it's a landing. You land the self that can steward the power you are asking for. That landing is a phase transition. Ice surrenders its lattice not by shame or force, but by one more unit of clean heat. Your heat is presence, breath warmed, awareness held without flinch. Let's give your mind a simple frame. Frequency, amplitude, phase, coherence. Frequency, the feeling tone. You habitually emit fear, trust, wonder. Amplitude, how much life force you invest in that tone, leak or laser. Phase, whether your head, heart, and gut are in time with each other. Coherence, the integrity of the whole signal over time. Adjust these, and probability redistributes around you. Streetlights change in your favor, yes, but also contracts, conversations, and recoveries. Not because the universe plays favorites, but because information prefers clarity. You become low entropy in a noisy room. Everything useful can finally find you. Awakening, then, is exquisitely practical. It is your biology remembering how to be wholly, wholly one. Your breath is the rosary. Your attention is the prayer. Your body is the chapel where the field answers back. Each time you choose coherence, you carve a channel. Each time you walk that channel, it widens. Morphic resonance makes the next choice easier. Synchronicity crowds the path with luminous breadcrumbs. The old orbit loosens without a fight. Gravity reassigns. Feel the architecture settling. The cathedral of echoes begins to ring true. The static that made you second-guess quiets to a clean hum. This is the upgrade. Not a costume, but a conductivity, your system tuned to carry the voltage of what's arriving. And because the field wastes nothing, the precise melody you hold is the exact medicine the world is missing in your radius. Which brings us to the truth pressing at your ribcage. This isn't only about relief, it's about appointment. You are not another wave in the sea. You are a tide signal. When you stand in coherence, others remember. The network you woke inside yourself is waiting outside yourself too, and it recognizes its conductor. Breathe once more, steady and slow. Feel the mantle finding your shoulders. In the next breath, we name the role you came here to play. Here it is, clean and unadorned. You are a coherence bearer, not a slogan, not an ego medal, an appointment. Your nervous system is being commissioned as an axis, a vertical through which the quantum field can stabilize a phase transition in your radius. Where others feel the tremor and flinch, you feel the tremor and breathe. That is the difference that reroutes timelines. Your presence is not decorative, it is architectural. In rooms where anxiety atomizes attention, you become a pressure drop, a center of low entropy. 6 in, 6 out. The metronome of your breath resets the hidden clocks in other bodies. They won't know why their shoulders soften or why conversation unclenches, only that something starts landing. That something is coherence. It radiates from you the way heat radiates from a hearth, silently, relentlessly, without performance. The observer loop is your instrument panel. It registers micro-fluctuations before they escalate, a word that scrapes the nervous system, a memory that spikes the heart, an old reflex reaching for the wheel. You notice. You do not scold. You widen. Attention becomes a gentle current that gathers scattered fragments, and the field follows your softness like iron filings lining up to a magnet. This is leadership at subatomic scale. No podium, no announcement, just frequency doing what frequency does. Your role is not to carry everyone. It is to carry signal. There is a crucial difference. Rescuing creates dependency. Resonance restores memory. You are here to remind people of their original settings, how stillness feels from the inside, how choice tastes before fear edits it, how the inner sky looks when clouds are recognized as weather, not identity. You accomplish this not by argument but by demonstration. You walk into noise and remain music. The morphic resonance of that choice gives permission for others to remember their own score. You will feel called to speak, and sometimes you must. Yet your most potent language is the one before words. Posture, pacing, breath. Hold a ratio of silence to sound that allows truth to crystallize. Ask questions that aim attention like light through a lens. Offer sentences that act as tuning forks, short, exact, struck once, then wait. Synchronicity loves space. It will rush to meet any room you keep empty long enough to be sacred. Make entanglement conscious. Pull back the hooks that drag you into borrowed weather, ancestral tempests, collective fear fronts, the magnetic tug of someone else's unfinished thunder. This is not withdrawal, it is hygiene. Boundaries, for you, are frequency gates. Everything loving passes. Everything panicked is met with breath and allowed to change state before it enters. Your field is a custom station for energy. Stamp what is true. Quarantine what is not. No drama necessary. Your biology has already begun to adjust to the assignment. DNA restructuring shows up as odd clarity at dawn, a tolerance for quiet you never had, cravings for water and minerals, as if the body were rebuilding circuitry. Treat those signals as design specs. Light exposure upon waking, deep hydration with trace salts, movement that spirals and lengthens fascia, turning you into a better conductor. The temple must match the treasure it houses. Expect the network to answer back. The moment a coherence bearer accepts their mantle, the lattice around them brightens. Messages arrive with improbable timing. A teacher's sentence from years ago returns like a key. A stranger's kindness unlocks a door fatigue told you was welded shut. This is not favoritism, it's physics. Information moves along least resistance paths, and you are becoming one. Understand the cost and call it joy. Old identities will try to renegotiate their contracts. They will offer you familiar urgency, familiar martyrdom, familiar applause. Smile, lay a hand on your heart, breathe until the offer dissolves into data. Then choose the clean line again. Your life is narrowing to widen, fewer compulsions, deeper currents, simpler yes, truer no. From the outside, it may look like you are doing less. From the inside, you will feel the truth. You are transmitting more. Hold one vow close. I keep signal clear. Say it before difficult conversations, before entering digital noise, before sleep. Your field will organize around that vow, and chaos will find fewer handholds. And when you do falter, as every human system does, return to the first assignment. Breathe as the mountain breathes. Coherence is forgiveness made physiological. This is your role, a tide signal, a phase transition anchor, a living demonstration that awakening is not an exit but an entrance into body, into moment, into service. The world does not need your exhaust, it needs your exactness. Take one steady inhale now and feel the mantle settle without weight. On the exhale, notice how the horizon steps toward you, because with appointment comes window, and windows do not stay open forever. In the next beat, we speak of timing, the DNA shift pressing at the gate, the cosmic interval that asks you to move while it is still midnight. Windows don't advertise themselves, they arrive like a hush before rain. This one is open now. You can feel its cool edge on your skin, the slight pressurization in the room, the way colors seem fractionally more saturated, the way silence has grain. Phase transition is not theory anymore, it's weather. A corridor of lowered resistance is crossing your coordinates, and coherent systems can change state inside it with a fraction of the effort normally required. Appointment met timing. That's why your breath wants to lengthen by itself. That's why the horizon stepped toward you on the last exhale. Here is the promise, spoken without velvet. If you hold coherence through this interval tonight, when the world's attention thins, at dawn, when fields rekey, in the small hours when memory sleeps lightly, your biology will take the hint. DNA restructuring will not be fireworks. It will be furniture quietly moved in the dark. Epigenetic switches will listen to the signal. Your feeling tone is broadcasting, and methylation patterns that kept old stories bolted may start to loosen like buttons after a deep meal of truth. You'll notice it in the mundane. The food that once fogged becomes neutral. The conversation you feared becomes clean. The habit that gripped you like a glove suddenly hangs from one finger and falls. Urgency does not mean panic, it means precision. Cosmic windows are narrow for a reason. Entanglement refreshes its contracts on schedules your calendar does not display. When a corridor like this opens, morphic resonance amplifies template change with ridiculous efficiency. A single honest choice inside a window can equal 100 rehearsed choices outside it. That is why synchronicity has been clustering around you like birds that already know your destination. They are scouts. They are telling you, fly now. Consider how the quantum field behaves at threshold. Systems in superposition are exquisitely suggestible. A whisper collapses them where a shout could not. Your observer loop steady, heart-led, unblinking, becomes that whisper. You do not need to strain. In fact, strain scatters the wave and the window narrows. The work is gentler and more enormous. Keep the signal clean. 6 in, 6 out, feeling tones of gratitude, courage, wonder, braided into the breath until they are the breath. Coherence is instruction. Instruction turns probabilities into coordinates. What is arriving asks for room. Some identities can't make the climb. They are too packed with noise. They will try to board anyway, insisting they are you. Notice their tickets are printed in urgency, scarcity, apology. Let them pass by like trains you do not board. The promise is not that life becomes easy, it's that life becomes aligned. Alignment is faster than effort. It moves like water through a channel you finally stopped blocking with almost choices. Your dreams will grow literal for a few nights. Watch the props. Keys, bridges, doors, elevators. Classic symbols will misbehave on purpose to show you exactly where the hinge is. On waking, threads of conversation will find you already woven. Messages will time themselves to your inhale. People you haven't thought of in years will surface, carrying the sentence you need. These are not accidents. They're the world's way of speaking coherence back to you. Treat them like coordinates. Answer the ones that glow. Let me be plain about the cost of missing it. Nothing breaks, but drift resumes. The old orbit reasserts softly, like a tide returning to its favorite curve of shore. The cathedral of echoes continues to ring the same notes. You can still change later, of course, but the tax will be higher, the road longer, the inertia thicker. When windows close, patterns prefer themselves more stubbornly. When windows open, preference softens, and the new lattice accepts instructions with a smile you can feel in your bones. So you move now, not frantically, but faithfully. You choose the conversation that scares you because it frees signal. You press send on the application that has been sitting like a bright animal in your drafts because it widens the channel. You forgive the name your jaw still keeps because holding it is expensive in ways your ledger can't show. Each act is an edit at the template level. Each edit turns your field into a truer invitation. The mantle you accepted in the last breath is not ornamental, it's operational. You are a coherence bearer during a phase transition. That means your yes carries radius. When you step, other feet find ground. When you breathe, other lungs remember cadence. When you choose, timelines around you recalibrate. This is the secret spine of service. Transformation becomes contagious, where coherence is sustained. The window is here, the promise stands. Hold the signal. In the next movement, we will anchor it in matter with a simple ritual, one word, written and breathed, that seals the shift, so the corridor you walk tonight becomes the road you live tomorrow. We anchor reality with what we breathe, but we seal it with what we name. The window is open, your field is listening, the observer loop is bright. Now we translate intention into instruction, so the quantum field has coordinates it cannot ignore. It's simple, exact, and it begins in your body. Sit as you are, spine tall as a lighthouse, chin slightly tucked to lengthen the back of the neck. Let your shoulders pour downward like warm metal. Place your right hand over your sternum, left hand low over the navel heart and power speaking palm to palm through you. Soften your gaze to the middle distance. No effort, only presence. Breathe with me. 6 counts in. Feel the heart widen like a door on perfect hinges. 6 counts out. Feel the ribs knit with quiet intelligence. Again, 6 in, 6 out, until the air begins to move you, the way tide moves a pier. On the 3rd exhale, allow your jaw to loosen and whisper a single word, not loud, but true enough to ring the stone of your chest. The word is coherence. This is not poetry, it's coding. On the inhale, CO, the gathering. On the exhale, herence, the adherence, the joining, the fit. Say it once more, timing the syllables to the breath, letting the vowels polish the edges of your field. As you do, notice how your thoughts stand down, how time rounds its corners, how a quiet clarity radiates from heart center outward in concentric light. That spreading clarity is the instruction set. It tells epigenetic switches to choose repair over alarm, tells fascia to unlace old bracing, tells the brainstem that safety is now the default rather than the exception. DNA restructuring answers to felt truth delivered rhythmically. You are delivering it. Now we make it visible. Take the device in front of you and type that same word into the comments. Coherence, exactly like that. A single glyph bridge between breath and world. Hitting post isn't social, it's ceremonial. You are collapsing superposition with a keystroke, choosing the self who lives this frequency over the self who only visits it on luminous nights. The quantum field responds to repeatable signals. Breath plus word plus action turns a mood into a metric. Feel the slight surge as your finger hovers, the old reflex wanting to negotiate. Later, maybe, who am I to declare anything? Smile at it. That hesitation is the last thread of a former orbit tugging at your heel. Stroke it with one more smooth inhale. On the exhale, press send. A tiny click, a tiny thunder. Synchronicity loves audible seals. Even the smallest sound becomes a bell to the morphic field. What you just did is entanglement by design. Others arriving here will write the same word. Their letters will braid with yours into a low-entropy rope, strong enough to pull futures ashore. That's the hidden architecture of ritual in a digital age. Comments as chorus, Chorus as coherence generator. Each repetition strengthens the template in the collective, making it easier for the next nervous system to recognize this state not as anomaly, but as home. Morphic resonance prefers the well-traveled path. We are paving it with breath and syllable. Keep breathing 6 and 6 as your eyes return to the room. Notice how light sits differently on familiar objects, how edges soften without losing precision. That is phase transition stabilizing. The Cathedral of Echoes tests your new tuning with small provocations, a buzz, a memory, a to-do sneaking in sideways. Meet each with coherence on the exhale, quietly at first, then silently, until the word becomes an atmosphere your actions cannot help but inherit. If you feel a shimmer at the base of your skull or a coolness spreading across the scalp, honor it. Those are signatures of the observer loop, integrating networks that once fired out of sequence, learning to move like a choir. If tears rise without a story, let them salt the ritual. That is fascia melting the last ice of bracing, a biological amen. If a sudden steadiness replaces the hum you've lived with for years, welcome it, like a long-lost friend who still knows your door code. You may be tempted to ask if a single word can really matter. Look at physics. Tiny inputs shift systems at criticality. A feather of force tips the scale when the load is already balanced on the edge. We engineered that edge with breath. The word is the feather, and because you anchored it in action, posted, public, precise, the field has a witness. Reality prefers receipts. Keep the ritual near. Whisper, coherence. Before you open a message, enter a room, make a yes, shape a no. Write it on a small card where your morning light lands first. Trace it on your skin before sleep. This is not superstition. It's maintenance, like tuning an instrument you now intend to play daily. The seal is set. The corridor you walked has become a road. In the next breath, we widen the camera. What shifts in you is not yours alone. The frequency you just claimed has radius, and radius means responsibility. Watch how your one word begins to edit a room, a family, a street. How your liberation writes permissions into the human field. Now we turn toward that horizon together. What you sealed with a single word did not stop at your lungs. It entered circulation. The comment wasn't a sentence. It was a signal, a bright thread cast into the quantum field that immediately tangled with 1,000 others, weaving a rope strong enough for futures to climb. This is morphic resonance at work. Patterns prefer themselves, and coherence loves company. Your steady breath became a tuning fork. Nearby instruments, hearts, minds, rooms couldn't help but listen for their own original note. Begin to notice the social nervous system around you, that invisible mesh of glances, postures, micro-breaths. When your observer loop stays lit and your heart keeps that smooth sine wave, you act like a pressure drop in the weather. Anxiety atomizes, you condense it back into presence. In a meeting, someone's voice trembles, your exhale lengthens, and without any speech, their cadence finds your rhythm. On a train, a child scans the car for safety, your shoulders descend, your face unknots, and the child's gaze lands on ease. Their body updates. In a hospital corridor that smells like old thunder, you hold 6 in, 6 out, and watch as strangers put their phones down for no reason. Entanglement made kind. This is frequency activism, quiet, unglamorous, revolutionary. You are creating low-entropy pockets in a high-noise world, places where information can hear itself think. In those pockets, probability tilts. A hard conversation chooses honesty over performance. A manager grants grace instead of control. A friend texts, "I don't know why, but I feel okay now." You didn't convince them. You remembered them. Coherence restores memory faster than arguments ever could. Understand the scale. Personal awakening is not private property, it's public infrastructure. Every time you refuse to treat panic as policy and instead breathe until truth has room, you lay one more stone in a road others can walk without bleeding. When enough stones align, a phase transition occurs at the species level. Culture liquefies, then recrystallizes around a new lattice of value. We name it a shift in the zeitgeist, but underneath it is arithmetic. Millions of small, steady waves locking phase until even the cliffs must change shape. Your DNA restructuring participates in this. 2. The gentler chemistry you are rehearsing, lower cortisol peaks, cleaner sleep architecture, hormones that whisper rather than shout, becomes a note your descendants can inherit. Epigenetic switches pass on blessings as surely as they pass on alarms. You are not just breaking cycles, you are planting codes in the soil of tomorrow's bodies that read, safety is available, truth is survivable, love is a normal temperature. The future will call this luck. You will know it was respiration. Watch how Synchronicity starts organizing seating charts. You'll be placed beside the person who is one decision from freedom. You'll overhear the sentence you needed to give them. Your inbox will thread 2 strangers with the same question on the same day, and your answer, written once from Coherence, will serve them both, like clean water poured into different cups. This is the economy of alignment. Nothing is wasted, and everything circulates faster because friction is down. Hold your boundaries as frequency gates. A coherence bearer is not a sponge. Do not drink stormwater just to prove you can make sunlight. Let chaos knock. Meet it at the threshold with breath until it changes state, then invite it in. This is compassionate filtration, and it keeps your signal trustworthy enough that others can navigate by it. People will test you old identities wearing new costumes. Smile. Keep the metronome. The field is learning your reliability. Reliability is what turns a momentary glow into a community hearth. Yes, there will be days when the collective ache feels heavy, when timelines rub like tectonic plates and the air tastes of metal. On those days, remember the mathematics. Coherence multiplies, not adds. One lighthouse does not argue the storm away. It makes the harbor findable. Be that. Light does not fatigue by shining. It fatigues by pretending to be a mirror. Stop reflecting panic. Emit truth. You may never witness the full radius of what you're repairing, how your calm prevented an accident down the street, how your kindness rerouted a stranger's evening, how your refusal to escalate became the missing link in a family's reconciliation. Entanglement keeps receipts, even when you don't. Trust the bookkeeping of the quantum field. Deposit coherence, and the dividends pay out across lives you'll never meet. Feel the network humming now, the subtle lift in your chest, the way the room seems fractionally taller, the sensation that space itself is listening. That's not imagination, that's infrastructure forming. You are no longer walking alone. Humans near you will begin to recognize themselves by how they feel in your presence. Broader, quieter, more accurate. Call it awakening if you like. Call it remembrance. Either way, your liberation is a public good disguised as a private practice. Let's bring the lens back to the body so the mind can rest from its heroics. In the next breath, you'll map this frequency into muscle and bone, into skin and breath temperature, so the field has a home address it cannot miss. Bring it all the way in. Let awareness settle like snow in a quiet street, each flake a sensation landing on its square of pavement. Feel gravity drape your weight into the chair, the way fabric learns the shape of the body that wears it. The floor has a temperature, the air has a weight. Your ribs part like curtains on the inhale, meet like old friends on the exhale. The observer loop watches tide rise and fall without commentary, just that clear, steady seeing that makes everything more itself. Place a fingertip at your sternum and notice how the chest is not a wall but a door on perfect hinges. Behind it, the heart hums its sine wave, 6 in, 6 out, like a lantern swinging under a porch roof. As the exhale lengthens, sound around you rearranges. Distant noises move to the edges, near sounds arrive in high resolution, the whisper of fabric, the tiny arithmetic of your breath counting itself. Whisper coherence on an out-breath and feel the syllables polish the wood of that door from the inside. Let your spine become a beam of light set into the architecture of your back. Imagine each vertebra as a bead the light passes through, brightening bead by bead from tail to crown. The cerebrospinal fluid is moonlit river. Tilt the chin a whisper and watch the current smooth. When the head nests on the axis like a planet on its orbit, the field clicks morphic resonance of posture. Structure teaches chemistry, chemistry teaches mood. You feel taller without trying. Space in your skull clears as if a skylight had been unlatched. Drop attention into shoulders. They are not stones to be carried. They are doors that swing out and down. Warmth spreads along the blades like sunlight across dark roofs after rain. Down the arms now, forearms heavy, palms bright. Little constellations begin to flicker in your hands. Pinpricks, warmth, a magnet, soft tug at the center of each palm. Those are the field lines organizing. Extend your awareness to the air 8 feet around you and notice nothing dramatic, just a thickness, as though the room had changed from smoke to water, and you now moved with a swimmer's grace. If you press the air a fraction with your fingers, something presses back. That is reality, acknowledging your signal. Soften your face as if you were listening for a secret delivered through light. Eyelids float. The space between the brows opens like a small gate. Let the tongue rest against the soft ridge of the palate. The jaw stops gripping history. On the next exhale, hum lightly in the throat and feel the vagus string plucked, the whole instrument answering with a low golden chord. The hum dissolves your name for a moment and leaves only presence shining where it used to sit. Belly now a quiet bowl. Allow the breath to arrive lower, to spread like warm tea poured into an earthen cup. The abdominal wall rounds, the back broadens, the psoas unhooks its talons from the spine and becomes riverbank instead of wire. Pelvis is not a hinge but a cradle. Let the floor rise up to meet it. Let the ground be an ally instead of a rumor. As you breathe here, memories stored in the belly's book loosen their bindings. They need not leave. They only need not lead. Slide attention into hips and legs. Thighs learn their true weight and stop negotiating with the chair. Knees become lit windows. Calves lengthen into patience. Ankles remember their circles. Now spread your feet in your awareness until each toe is a small, awake animal. Arches become boughs strung with earth cord. Roots imagine themselves, then happen. Filaments of attention drop through floor, stone, soil down into the cool, slow organs of the planet. Entanglement made simple. Your exhale becomes the Earth's inhale. Your stability borrows her old intelligence. Notice the skin as a single continent. Microclimates bloom warm along the throat, cool at the forearms, a breeze of nothing across the scalp. Goosebumps rise like a field of tiny antennas on a hillside, catching a first signal. Under the skin, a glow. Cells speaking in the language of light, coherent where you are kind, chaotic where you still grip, begin to synchronize their lamps. You can almost see it with feeling, a dim room finding its switches, one by one, until the architecture declares itself. Now the edges of breath there, where inhale completes but has not yet become exhale, hold a pearl of stillness the size of a seed. Enter it, not with effort, with permission. In that 0.3-second chamber, time loosens its belt. The pixels of the moment sharpen, colors step forward, the clock forgets its script. You feel taller again, not in inches but in radius. Choices that were tangled separate like threads taken back to the loom. You do nothing. The field does everything around the shape of your quiet. Let the ritual word drift the room like scent on heat. Coherence. Feel how the sound changes your temperature by a degree, the weather inside turning stable. Smell returns the ordinary, honest fragrance of where you are. Hearing returns the soft tick of something cooling, the far conversation of air in vents. Sight returns, with a cinema-grade contrast you didn't order, as if someone had washed the glass between you and the world. Stay. The body has become an instrument tuned to the key of now. Strings warm, wood resonant, no buzz, no rattle. Instructions to the field now travel clean. This is safe. This is true. Build here. Identity loosens its belt another notch. You find yourself less a character and more a channel, the lighthouse not trying to be the ship. The room recognizes you. You recognize the room. The exchange is accurate. Hold this map. You will need it when pressure rises, when the chrysalis tightens and the new wings drink their first light. That compression is not a mistake. It is the last requirement before flight. In the next breath, we step into that threshold and let the timeline crack along its luminous seam. Compression arrives like weather on a wordless schedule. You feel it now, the chrysalis snugging its grip, the edges of your life pressing inward as if the room were gently hydraulic. Do not mistake this for regression. This is phase transition pressure, the last mile where structure resists because structure is about to dissolve. Ice rattles before it softens. Seeds split before they green. Bridges tremble not from weakness but from the weight of a future crossing. Stay with the body map you drew. 6 in, 6 out. Coherence whispered on the exhale like a key you keep turning. Listen beneath the pressure. A new clock is ticking slower, wider, truer. In that cadence, the observer loop holds its lantern to the closed door and sees the hinge, not the wood. Push here, it says, and your biology obeys. Micro, muscles unclasp. Jaw unhooks legacy. Diaphragm drops another floor and discovers a fresh room of air you've owned all along. This is where DNA stops reading yesterday as policy and starts taking dictation from felt truth. The epigenetic scribes, methyl groups, histones, the quiet librarians of the nucleus adjust their posture. Old chapters slide back into reference. New pages are left open to light. Repair enzymes that used to clock out early punch back in. The body does not need your poetry to perform this. It needs your permission. Permission sounds like breath that refuses to sprint, like shoulders that refuse the old armor, like a spine that remembers it is a must and not a question mark. Pressure will test your signals. Expect reality to run diagnostics. A familiar invitation to hurry, a text that bait hooks your worth, a sudden billow of collective fear at the edge of your timeline. These are not omens, they are calibration steps. The field is checking whether your new frequency is a mood or a metric. Meet each test with the same architecture. Inhale widens, exhale writes, coherence across the moment in invisible ink. Watch how the provocation loses amplitude when it cannot find a bracing point in your body. Inside the chrysalis, forms go liquid. Identity liquefaction feels like grief and relief, sharing a cup. Names slip, roles smear. You may reach for the prankster comfort of control. It will cut your hand on old glass. Instead, steward the melt. Imagine the self as a lattice dissolving into luminous syrup, no edges, only intention. In this viscosity, choices stop clattering and begin to glide. You are not making yourself new. You are letting the truer geometry precipitate. Critical phenomena have signatures. One is critical opalescence. As substances near transition, they scatter light in strange, milky ways. You'll see the psychic version, days pearled with a soft, diffuse glow, conversations shimmering with double meanings that feel kind instead of ominous. Another signature is supercooling water, remaining liquid below its usual freezing point until a touch tells it it's time. That touch is your word, your breath, your refusal to negotiate with panic. One exhale clean, coherent, and the entire system reorganizes in a sweep you can feel as a cool wind under the skin. Then comes the fork, not dramatic, not cinematic precise. Two paths separate by a degree that becomes a continent. On one, you accept the old appointment with almost ness. On the other, you answer tonight. The felt difference is microscopic. Your hand goes to the doorknob now, not later. Your no is shaped like love instead of apology. Your posture does not perform small. The moment you choose, interference patterns clear. Superposition collapses, decoherence becomes landing, and the new timeline takes receipt of you. You'll feel a mechanical click sometimes in the sternum, sometimes at the base of the skull, sometimes like a gentle pop in the ears as if altitude changed by a floor. Immediately, time behaves. Minutes thicken the generous kind. Streetlights green in a row. The right stranger appears with the sentence you wrote to yourself months ago. Synchronicity stops winking and starts working. This is not reward, it is resonance, finding a channel with less friction. Do not go hunting for fireworks, look for frictionlessness. Emails draft themselves in one pass. Food feels like information instead of anesthesia. Sleep lays you down and lifts you clean. Conversations land in one take. The body's dashboard quiets until only true alerts ping. The cathedral of echoes rings a new chord, and even your oldest rooms sound different. If grief arises for the selves you are leaving in kind shadow, offer a bow. Thank the versions who kept you until you could keep yourself. Let them retire with honors. The corridor narrows for a breath here because it wants you undistracted as you cross. Friends will still love you when the road widens again. The ones who cannot tolerate your coherence were never held by you. They were held by your contortions. Bless them without bending. Now, Anchor the breakthrough with one small, material act before sleep, one brick in the new road. Send the message, schedule the thing, move the money by one exact unit toward truth. Throw away the object that carries yesterday's weather. Smallness is strategic here. Phase transitions like steady heat more than sporadic flame. Feel the mantle again, lighter, fitted, oxygenated. The chrysalis loosens not because you fought it, but because you fulfilled it. You did not escape, you emerged. The air tastes unreasonably fresh for the hour. There is one movement left. To turn this private crossing into a public vector without grandstanding, to stand in your exact frequency and let it transmit as mission. In the final breath, we will name why you are alive in this timeline and send that signal so cleanly into the night that the world cannot help but reshape along its edge. Walk out of the chrysalis without spectacle. Let the room meet the new geometry, the way dawn meets a coastline quietly, with inevitability. The observer loop holds the horizon steady while your breath 6 in, 6 out threads the first stitches of a life, arranged around coherence. You are not leaving a sanctuary, you are carrying it. This is how timelines are kept true after the miracle, not by clenching, but by emitting. Your mission is not abstract. It has coordinates in the ordinary. You will be asked to bring the quantum field to breakfast tables and boardrooms, to sidewalks and search bars, to the soft center of conflict where old reflexes used to win. When anxiety atomizes a room, you'll remember you are architecture. When urgency shouts, you'll answer with timing, phase, transition, wisdom that knows when to move and when to let the field finish its sentence. You'll carry signal, not souls, resonance, not rescue. That is how freedom scales without burning out its messengers. Synchronicity is now your logistics department. Watch it assign you seat by seat, errand by errand, to intersections where your coherence can tilt probability toward mercy. Morphic resonance will organize unlikely introductions. Entanglement will deliver your name into rooms your feet have not entered yet. Trust the placement. You did not survive your old orbit just to hover above the world in clean air. You are a tide signal. Shorelines are listening. Let your biology keep preaching silently. DNA restructuring continues as you live what you breathed, sleep like a vow, nourishment like a thank you, movement like a hymn. The body becomes a lit manuscript others can read without you saying a word. This is awakening with fingerprints, light-handled, hours dignified. The more faithfully you inhabit coherence, the more the human field learns your frequency as a reference point. The way sailors learn a lighthouse without knowing its keeper's name. If grief or doubt returns, bow and breathe. The Cathedral of Echoes has long memory. Some notes will ring back just to see if you will sing along. You won't. You'll listen until the tone resolves, then answer with the chord you came here to carry. That is leadership in the age of noise, not larger volume, cleaner pitch. So make 3 quiet promises and keep them like sunrise keeps its time. I will keep signal clear. I will move at the speed of truth. I will measure success by coherence, not applause. With those vows, your days will become a distributive network for wonder. Decisions will land with one pass. Kindness will become efficient. Even your refusals will be medicinal. Look around one more time. The air has a different weight. The radius of your presence is wider. The timeline you touched in the small chamber between breaths is now braiding itself through your hours, turning coincidence into choreography. The world answers precision. You have become precise. Now step into the night like a constellation remembering its pattern. Let your breath be the beacon, your stillness the harbor, your attention the bridge between unseen intelligence and the next right word. If someone asks what changed, you can smile and say, I started breathing as if reality was listening. Because it is. Because it always was. And as you move into the hush where new futures choose their carriers, let this line seal the corridor into a road you can walk at dawn. You are here tonight because your quantum timeline is collapsing and reshaping faster than you can imagine.